Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, buongiorno, buonasera, dzień dobry, dobry wieczór, jak la. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you may be. Jay Slater case with a touch, just a little touch of the John George case, because something that I know that happened in the John George case is kind of interestingly enough reared its head in the Jay Slater case. So I will link the two up here. First of all, many thanks to the tipster that found this. I wasn't aware of it. It is a statement from the K9SARNI group, Search and Rescue Northern Ireland. Um, and they basically tell us, I'll read the whole thing through because there's a lot to take in. And there's a lot of detail in there I find really interesting. But basically, this Northern Ireland dog team, search team, were contacted by Debbie very early doors. I think it says June 20th. And they never went over there. They never got over there. They didn't. They didn't search. And we can discuss at a later time why that might have been. But those of you out there, if you were asked to list all of the search teams that were involved in the Jay Slater case, I think nearly all, maybe everyone, would go through Guardia Civil, um, the Ivor Lovelace lot, the all the volunteers that went over there, the Lancashire friends and family, if you like. But Millie, I don't know if Millie's part of the Ivor Lovelace lot. I don't know. DTR and Callum, and you know what I mean. I think we could all identify, these are searchers, these are search teams that indeed did participate. I don't know if anyone would say, oh, the Northern Ireland lot, in the sense that they were contacted, they were invited by Debbie, but they never got to go over there. I'm not sure if I ever did know that was the case. So this is kind of big news, tis to me anyway. If you always knew about the Northern Ireland K9 search team that never went over there, then you're one step ahead of me. I wasn't aware of it. Now, I want to go back to the John George case. If you don't know anything about the John George case, it doesn't matter, because what I'm going to say, in a nutshell, is kind of separate from John George and his death. In the John George case, this same group, K9SARNI or Northern Ireland, K9 Search and Rescue, in the John George case, they arrived in Spain. This is important because it's the same country in Spain to search for John George or John George's remains. And they arrived on January the 1st, New Year's Day of 2025. Okay. When I looked back to find out when the John George family first contacted the K9SARNI group, it was, from what I found, December 29th, 2024. We're talking about a turnaround of 3 days over the holiday period. Now, if anyone can find anything other than that, go ahead. But from what I looked at, that's how it happened. December 29th, the John George family contact this K9SARNI group in Northern Ireland and say, we desperately need you over in Spain, Alicante area, to search for John George. January the 1st, was that 2 days later? 3 days later. December 29, December 30, December 31, January 1st, they land. They're in Alicante, La Provincia de Alicante, searching for John George. 3, 4 days, max, it seems, if I got my facts right here. Now let's read on the other hand, what happened in the Jay Slater case. Seems like Debbie contacted them June 20th and they never showed up. Never got permission to show up. So that would raise the question, how did searching for John George get this lot permission instantly? Must have been instant for them to get over there within 3 days. And why was no permission given in the Jay Slater case? A question or an answer we'll never get, I suspect. Yeah, so I can't figure this one out. And for this one, I will need some time to think about it, to see if there are implications in this story that are somewhat nefarious, nefarious from either side. I mean, I don't need to read it through because you should be able to see this in the background. Yeah, but it does say on the 20th of June 24, yeah, we were contacted directly by Jay Slater's mother, Debbie Duncan. I'm going through it carefully because as I'm reading it, the writing is reversed. Only when it comes out in the video is it the right way around. So I'm reading kind of mirror writing here. Um, and what does it say? Debbie Duncan, um, understanding the I'll cut to the chase here. It seems like when we have this list of people that the Sarni group were contacting, they were desperately trying to get the permission to go over there. So they mention, for example, the Embajada de España en Londres, so the Spanish embassy in London. They mentioned Guardia Civil. Now, if I'm going to guess, if there's one group that would have objected to this group going over to conduct a search while they and their dogs are conducting a search, it would be the Guardia Civil. I'm just guessing. Like I say, I need to ruminate somewhat on all this. I just remember this tipster sent it to me a while ago. I found it and I thought, oh my God, I better put this out immediately. But I don't see, for example, why the others, the Spanish embassy or British consulate or anyone would object to this Northern Irish search team going out there. But I could see why the Guardia Civil would object to it if they are already in situ with their dogs. It might be a complication and an unwelcome presence that Guardia Civil did not want. On the other hand, it was also the Guardia Civil in Alicante that were in charge of the John George case. Although I think the difference was I do not believe in the John George case, because in the John George case for the longest time, no one actually had any idea. I mean, it could have been anywhere in the province where John George's body was. That's a big difference because in that situation, Guardia Civil might have said, yeah, we actually don't know where John George's body could be. So anything your dogs could do, you're not going to be getting in the way of our dogs in Alicante because we don't really have an area where we're searching with our dogs. Yeah, we're a bit lost on this one. Whereas in the Jay Slater case, given Guardia Civil were already in the Taino National Park and focused on certain ravines, and once the pinging phone had been sorted out, the specific ravine, here I do think Guardia Civil may well have said, even though it's early doors, no. Because Guardia Civil, remember, already said no to any help coming from Lancashire Constabulary. It would be consistent to say, and no, we don't want your Northern Ireland dogs over here, Debbie Duncan. I mean, that kind of makes sense. But it is interesting that it seems at no point, at no point were the Northern Ireland group given the thumbs up. Then they never went over there. Now, if we want to go full-blown conspiratorial with this, seeing as we have Debbie Duncan out there, as far as I can see, I believe that Facebook post is a genuine Debbie Duncan post, despite the likes of Ivor Lovelace shouting fake, as he always does with anything uncomfortable. Yeah. If we take that Facebook post as genuine, where Debbie Duncan says 52K went to searchers, we have another candidate here who may or may not have been paid something. They didn't actually do anything, so I imagine they didn't get paid. But I just wonder if in Debbie's position, she has an extra card she can play in this. Oh, we needed a lot of money to pay for searchers, to pay a deposit for searchers, to put money down in the bank ready to spend for searchers. This does, as it's a whole new search group, give that added option. And this is early doors, the GoFundMe money's pouring in. This does give Debbie Duncan the option of saying, oh, no, not that Dutch search group. We had to put money aside for the Northern Irish search group. it's an added element to the Debbie Duncan search story that I think fleshes out the whole we needed money for the searchers. Because at this point, I mean, it has to be said, Debbie doesn't know if they're going to be needed or not. But I would imagine Debbie has to pay pretty darn quickly. If the Northern Ireland group says suddenly we've got approval, we've got to book our dogs on flights tomorrow, Debbie, make that transfer now, Debbie's got to have the money for it. So I don't think any 52K went to this group, but it may well be the case that Debbie early doors thought she might need quite a lot of money to pay them when the permission comes through. The permission never came through. And I am interested in that. I can understand Guardia Civil saying no, but like I say, Guardia Civil did say yes, and it all happened very quickly in the John George case. This, no doubt, will be a question that goes unanswered. But anyway, yeah, let me think this through. Let me try to come back with some more thoughts when I maybe figure out what was going on here. But oh, and right at the end here, I'm kind of intrigued by who's mentioned at the bottom here. It says only official groups, so it's listing this Facebook site here. Then right at the end, Mark Williams Thomas. Again, we're early doors here. So yeah, Mark Williams Thomas, I think, just been called in to start his investigation. And then it says Isla Traqueir. Isla Traqueir? Um, why is she there? I mean, Isla Traqueir, as far as I understood it, was some kind of ITV journalist, reporter, interviewer gal that gave us a few minutes of Brad's wise words and wisdom, and that was it. Why is Isla Traqueir mentioned at the bottom of this whole, we're the Northern Ireland Dogs team? I mean, it implies to me Isla Traqueir is involved to a level that we don't know about and didn't know about. But Isla, whatever your name is, I don't know. Were you involved at a level that we don't know about? Are you one of the Northern Ireland dog team specialists, helpers, contribute? I don't know. Why is her name there? Anyway, I will leave it there. This is an odd one. But yeah, we do have another dog team and search team to add to the list. It's the ones that were contacted very, very early on. Yeah, 20th of June. Jay disappears the 17th. Debbie arrives on the 18th. 2 days later, she's saying to this group in Northern Ireland, I need your dogs over here. Let me get the permission and can you do it? And they're like, yeah, yeah. Wow. Okay, there we go. Hasta luego, adios, hasta la vista. See you next time.